So very recently, I actually decided to have a look at the 2020 NBA draft just to see kind of how the players were stacking up, how some of the players, in that year were doing. Some of the ones right now that could be potentially on the move. And of course, some of the other names that are just doing exceptionally well. I decided to, do this just for some research to see kind of, how the draft is going, how it's looking like compared to other drafts that we have had potentially in the last couple of years. But one thing I noticed, which I feel is very, very interesting, and I thought, you know what, we got to make a video about this, is actually the player who was selected at number 2 overall that a lot of NBA fans have actually forgotten even exists, in James Wiseman. Now, James Wiseman, coming into the draft, was a very, very kind of highly talented prospect that was seen to be possibly one of the best big men that we've seen in the draft in the last couple of years. It was seen that what was going to be the perfect fit for James Wiseman, I think, was going to be the only issue he was going to face coming into the draft. And some things, people said was when it comes to the top 5 picks, you got James Wiseman, who could be ultimately the best player going to this draft, actually fall down to a team like the Chicago Bulls at 4, just because the first 3 teams doesn't really fit the way James Wiseman plays. That's what it was kind of seemed like before the draft started. It was seemed that, even when LaMelo Ball kind of came out on live stream and actually held up the, kind of 2 sign with his hands, implying that he was going to get drafted at 2, a lot of people said, well, maybe then Charlotte might take, James Wiseman at 3. What actually happened, though, was the Golden State Warriors shocked quite a bit of people, including myself, who actually thought they were going to take LaMelo Ball just based on the fact that it seemed like they were looking for another guard to kind of come in, especially with Klay Thompson's recent injury that put him out for the year. I honestly thought, LaMelo Ball was going to go at 2, as well as LaMelo Ball, posting that video. I thought, well, certainly LaMelo's going to go to 2 to the Warriors, right? Well, no. They actually ended up drafting James Wiseman, and in the year and a half that James Wiseman has kind of been on the Golden State Warriors roster, it has not been pretty at all. Since the first moment James Wiseman decided to step foot on an NBA court and play for the Golden State Warriors, people were already calling him a bust. Now, yes, I do agree that his first season was not great, but to kind of answer the question on what this video is called, is it safe to say that James Wiseman is a bust already? I'm going to have to side with the Golden State Warriors fans who have been constantly behind him and, pushing him to get better and have been supporting him and defending him against anyone who's calling him a bust. I'm going to have to stand with you guys. I don't understand why James Wiseman is being called a bust when he's only played a combined 39 games in his NBA career. Yes, I will agree, though, that it was stupid for the Golden State Warriors to pick him, as I never thought he really fit into their team exactly too well. And yes, he's got some injury issues here and there. I just still think it is ridiculous to call this guy a bust when we've only seen 39 games of him, where he only played 21 minutes per game. Now, the way I see the Golden State Warriors team, right now, and even back then, is they've always been a pretty small team that has been really had an emphasis on ball movement and making sure the right players who are 3-point shooters get open for the threes, and of course giving those guys a good support system in players like Draymond Green, etc., who can give off good screens and play make to these type of players. Again, other players they brought in to do this were Nemanja Bjelica of more recent times, and Andre Iguodala, who has also been another guy who's been really able to be on the same page as 3-point shooters like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and even Jordan Poole now. So again, when they decided to draft a big man who was known, to be a dude that can be really, really powerful inside, be a really good post scorer, be a dude that could potentially be a really good rebounder as well, and just be a guy that could ultimately hit the mid-range, I thought this might actually not be too bad. But the issue with the Golden State Warriors is bringing in a 7'1" player like James Wiseman was always going to be a really weird thing, especially considering most of the time the average height of their centers are 6'9". The other thing to note is the centers that they usually pick are 6'9" centers that are really mobile on the court and that are really just play the role of setting screens and making sure players like Steph Curry, get open and do this and that. That's why players like, Kevon Looney have been able to be so successful with the Golden State Warriors in recent time, because they just ultimately play their role. They've even ran small ball Draymond Green at that kind of, role of just being a good screener and that can play make at the center position. And in more recent times, Nemanja Bjelica, who has been really mobile for the Golden State Warriors this season, and has just been really, really good at that role. James Wiseman has never been a dude in college that would have been, the guy to come and give screens and be kind of a role player. So it was weird they kind of took this type of guy at pick 2, in my opinion. But is James Wiseman a bust? No, he's not. Look, I've got some critiques on James Wiseman, but it's still way too early to call this guy a bust. But in my opinion, I will agree though with the guys that say that it was a unnecessary pick and maybe the Golden State Warriors would have done better if they picked LaMelo Ball. I do believe that to be true. I said that before the draft started, that it would have been better to pick LaMelo Ball. But for some reason, the Warriors picked James Wiseman, and to this day, I think they do regret it. But what I'm going to say here is, I'm not sure if James Wiseman will ever be the right player for the Golden State Warriors team. Look, the Golden State Warriors at the time making this video are 17-2, and if you bring back James Wiseman, I'm not really too sure if the team gets better, because as I said, James Wiseman is not the type of dude to play that role of, running around the court the whole time, setting screens and doing this and that like Andre Iguodala and Nemanja Bjelica are now used to. James Wiseman, when he's at his best, operates in the paint, can be a post scorer, this and that, and that's why I think maybe it could actually be a perfect opportunity for the Golden State Warriors to trade him, while I guess his value isn't completely diminished. Because what I'm worrying for the Golden State Warriors is that James Wiseman's going to come back. He's not going to fit with their current team. The team is going to play much better without him. And then that these minutes are going to get greatly, kind of cut away. And they're going to favor giving minutes to like Kevon Looney and even Nemanja Bjelica. That is my ultimate worry with James Wiseman. And I do really think if the Golden State Warriors are fully committed right now, they should definitely go out and potentially trade him, to a team that they can maybe bring in another role player, or even just bring in a center and a first round pick. But bring in a center that is used to playing that kind of role of running around, setting screens and doing this and that. There are so many of those players out there that would be absolutely perfect for them. And of course, there are players on, teams which aren't exactly great right now, where you can really, really go out and, of course, do that. Now, there's one team, even San Antonio. San Antonio are looking for a, bunch more young talent. If I was San Antonio, and the Golden State Warriors right now could definitely look at getting a veteran, I think, like Thad Young, who has been known to be able to do that, be a really great defender, run around and set screens, be a really nice role player, and they could trade James Wiseman for like him, and even a first round pick or two, and it kind of works for both teams. Then the Warriors can flip those 2 first round picks and, get some other really nice good veterans here and there. What I'm saying is right now though, the Warriors are in a really weird situation where they are an extremely good basketball team. They've got a player like James Wiseman, who is not a bust, don't get me wrong, he's not a bust, but just doesn't really fit with this team. So they're in a really weird situation where it's kind of like, well, do they trade him? Do they just give him a chance to see if he can be alright? That's what I think they'll do. I think they'll give him a chance to see if he can, of course, be successful with this Warriors team. And then, of course, if he can't, maybe trade him off to bring in another role player or something like that. But I did see some Warriors fans, kind of suggesting that they trade him for a role player like Thad Young and bring in a couple of first-round picks. And honestly believe, pretty similar thing where that could definitely be a really good shout. Again, they could go after a star, but just with salary cap issues and stuff, I'm not sure how it would, of course, go. You could look at Karl-Anthony Towns, but with how Andrew Wiggins and that are playing right now, you're not going to want to trade them to match up contracts, so none of that stuff will end up happening. But I just really want to make this video just to kind of say, well, James Wiseman is not a bust. Please do not suggest that James Wiseman is a bust. I just think he's just not fitting in with his team. He's had a bunch of injury issues right now. Look, the Warriors probably should have drafted someone else over him. But hey, maybe it's, kind of a perfect opportunity now for Wiseman to come in and prove everyone wrong and actually play some good basketball for the Warriors. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all the latest NBA content and NBA news. Don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel and my IRL/long channels if you haven't already, which I will all be linking in the description down below. But as I was saying, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.